So I just got out of the movie theaters for the new Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie extravaganza that has been released this weekend. And I've already seen it twice. I have seen it once on IMAX and I have seen it once in standard, just the standard movie screen. And you basically get to see some fights that we've been looking forward from the actual anime show for the longest time against some of the highest upper moons. Right off rip, guys, I really enjoyed this movie. It was amazing. The animation was just super sleek and on point. The epic moments is just, it was so good. But I did have one issue, and that has to do with the pacing of the movie and how they went about explaining some of the backstories of these characters, but we'll get into that later. Let's get into some of the good stuff about this movie. Number one, the story. You get a lot of finality with some characters. You get a lot of good backstory that adds a lot of complexity to characters, and you also get some of the best fight scenes you probably will ever see in Demon Slayer in this movie. And the animation is just so sleek. It's so on point. It's so clean and crispy, so vibrant. It is just a very good spectacle to watch. So I saw it in Japanese and I also saw it in the dubbed. And I would have to say, if you want to have a very epic experience, then I'd probably watch it in Japanese. And if you want to have an experience where you're not having to read, obviously you go watch the dub. But I do feel like the Japanese just had like this extra emotional punch to it, especially when they're like naming all their forms, like, oh, this is my fifth water form, strike, whatever. It just sounds a little less cheesy in Japanese. I thought it sounded really cheesy in the dub. It almost makes it seem like a super kid show, and it's not a kid show, guys. It's meant for, upper middle-aged men just like myself. We finally got some fights that I've been really wanting to see, like one with Doma. He is one of the upper moons, and he's probably one of my favorite looking upper moons that I've seen besides the upper moon one, Kokoshibo. He looks even cooler, and I don't know what he can do because they don't really show what he can do in this movie, but they tease him a little bit, and oh my god, I'm excited for the next movie already. So it definitely feels like a Marvel movie where you get into the Infinity War or you get into the end game. It has this specific finality to it all that really just feels grand and epic, and I really do feel like it is a movie theater experience, and it was probably one of the better movie theater experiences I had this whole year when it comes to movies. Now that I talked about the pros about this movie, I can glaze it for a super long amount of time, but there is one thing I did have an issue with, which was the pacing. This movie tells its story with a lot of flashbacks, and that's fine. Demon Slayer has always had flashbacks, but the way that they presented in this movie is they build you up on these fight scenes that happen in the movie between some of these upper moons. And they build up so much momentum, and it gets so badass at certain parts, and it gets so cool. And then they just cut it off. They cut it off to go into the backstory of said character, so you can get a little bit more complexity and follow a story with them, and just get to a better understanding of why these characters are doing what they're doing, which is good. I'm all for it. I'm all for character building through story. I know it's not just an action movie, and I know that's how they did it in the mangas. And that was just like my biggest issue. I just felt like it was giving me blue balls sometimes during the fights, and it just cut off the momentum. Maybe it would have been a little bit better if they presented some of these flashbacks in the beginning of the movie and kind of let you get into the story, and then just have this huge finale of all these characters coming in and having their final fights with some of these other upper moons. I feel like that would have been a cooler way. I feel like that's the more general way you would do it in a cinematic movie, is you would have like this build up and then an explosion of action. And I feel like that's the better way to tell a story like this. But what they do is they have this build up, they have these fights, and then they cut midpoint. You go into a slower pace, and then you get kicked right back into super fast action, and then you're back into a backstory, and then you're kicked right back up to fast action, and then you're back to a backstory. And I just felt like it cut off the momentum for me and kind of made the runtime of 2 hours and 35 minutes feel a little longer than it should. But besides that, this movie was just a really cool cinematic experience. I recommend going to check it out. If you're a fan of the Demon Slayer, you have to go to the movies to go see this. You're gonna regret it if you don't. There's just a finality to it all, and I feel like you kind of have to go see movies and events like this in theaters to really get the full experience that the creators wanted you to have. But yeah, I recommend it, guys. Go check it out if you have seen it and you're a fan of Demon Slayer. I know we go over a lot of just normal movies on this channel, but I do watch a lot of anime. I watch everything, so expect some more reviews. But if you guys have seen it, let me know down in the comments what you guys thought. I would love to kind of have a discussion about it. But until the next review, doses. Actually, the next review is going to be like the John Wick 4K reviews. Look out for that. And deuces.